Okay, a show of hands. Who doesn't like Nutella? Anybody? Didn't think so. But why is it so delicious? In this video, we will look at Nutella's production and its consequences. But first, let's take a closer look at Nutella's origin and ingredients. Nutella was created by Pietro Ferrero in a small bakery in Alba, Italy. Nutella, coming from the English word nut and the Italian prefix ella, meaning small. The first jar under the name Nutella was produced in the year 1964. Today, Ferrero is one of the biggest international candy producers worldwide. It sells its products in 170 different countries. In 2017, it made 10.5 billion sales. Nutella makes up a fifth of the annual income and is sold in 70 different countries. Nutella is made up of only 7 ingredients. It is known as a hazelnut spread, although 50% is made of sugar and palm oil. Only 13% are made of hazelnuts. Other ingredients are cocoa powder, skim milk powder, emulsifier, and vanillin. Maybe you have noticed that Nutella tastes different in other countries because the composition of the ingredients is slightly different depending on the country. The reason for that is that different countries eat various types of bread, so Nutella adjusted the ingredients to the bread type. In Italy, you usually eat Nutella with white bread, so it should be creamier, whilst in Germany it is often eaten with darker bread. But the exact recipe of Nutella is a guarded secret. Because it is mostly made of sugar and palm oil, it clearly does not belong to a healthy diet. 100 grams of Nutella are 540 kilocalories. With 1 tablespoon, you cover a third of your daily sugar consumption. Let's face it, even though Nutella is unhealthy, it is very popular around the world. It is mostly eaten for breakfast. You could actually circle the world 1.8 times with the amount of Nutella jars produced in 1 year. But what country consumes the most? You might think the USA or Italy, but unexpectedly, it's France. They also have the biggest Nutella factory in the Normandy. Now that we have a general overview of Nutella's components, let's dive further into the value chain. Nutella has, compared to many other products that land on supermarket shelves, a very long value chain. Each year, Ferrero International SA produces 250,000 tons of Nutella at 10 different factories, featuring the sweetest supply chain in the world, which stretches out over 75 countries. 5 of them in the European Union and 1 each in Russia, Turkey, North America, Australia, and South America. The production of Nutella is located in those countries to ensure it is near markets where there is a high demand. Being close to final consumers and to suppliers is important to Nutella. One of Nutella's main ingredients is sugar. In European Nutella factories, they use beet and refined cane sugar. The beet sugar is purchased from GMO-free beets from European producers. However, the sugar cane is imported mainly from Brazil, India, Mexico, and Australia. The sugar beets and canes are harvested. In the processing factories, the juice is extracted. The remaining water is evaporated. The sugar crystals are then dried and ready to be delivered to the factories in Europe. Employees of the factory regularly take samples to check the quality of the sugar. Now on to the ingredient which ensures a smooth and creamy texture of the Nutella: palm oil. The main countries that produce the palm oil for Nutella are Indonesia and Malaysia. The source of palm oil are the pulps of the palm tree fruits. This tree produces reddish fruits, about the size of an olive, which hang from the tree in large spherical bunches. 1 bunch can weigh between 10 to 40 kilograms. By pressing the fruit pulp, which is to a great extent made up of oil, palm oil can be extracted. Palm kernel oil, which is more similar to coconut oil, can be produced from the seeds of the fruit. When the palm fruits have been harvested, the oil has to be pressed out in the shortest time possible. The following processing and purification have to be conducted under controlled temperatures to preserve the oil's natural characteristics. It is then delivered to the factory, where a quality test awaits. Another important ingredient in Nutella are the hazelnuts, which mainly grow on the Mediterranean coast, particularly in the Black Sea region of Turkey, but also in Italy. The raw, shelled, and calibrated hazelnuts are roasted in the factories. They are then turned into a silky paste, which is blended with other ingredients. Let's move on to the next ingredient, milk. The milk from local farmers is pasteurized and dehydrated. The result is skimmed milk powder. To produce 1 kilogram of this powder, 10 liters of liquid skimmed milk have to be processed. Now to the ingredient which gives Nutella its deliciousness, cocoa. The cocoa used in Nutella mainly comes from West Africa. The ripe cocoa pods are harvested and then opened to remove the beans. They're then left in large heaps to ferment for a week. This process is important for the development of the characteristic flavor. In the Nutella factories itself, the beans are dried, followed by shelling. They are then grinded into a cocoa mass, from which the cocoa powder is obtained. Lecithin is added to Nutella to increase the smoothness and to ensure a balanced mix of ingredients. The lecithin used in Nutella is extracted from soybeans which are grown in Brazil, India, and Italy. The last ingredient in Nutella is vanillin. Nutella uses synthetic vanillin, produced in Europe or the US, because the production of vanilla pods cannot meet the increasing global demand. It contains a very small amount, but it adds the final touch to Nutella's unique flavor. The majority of the ingredients mentioned before are, due to several reasons, not grown near the factory in Europe. One reason is the climate. Products used in Nutella, like cocoa, are tied to geography. They need a soil with certain nutrients, the right amount of rainfall and humidity, the right temperature, and certain hours of sunlight to grow. Cocoa, for instance, is grown mostly in West Africa because there the climate is more humid and there is more than enough sunlight for the plant to flourish. Another reason for Nutella to grow its ingredients outside of the European border is the lower labor and transportation costs. Sugar and cocoa, for example, are dried before they are transported to the local factory. As a result, they are then lighter as most of the water has evaporated. This results in cheaper transportation costs. As for the low labor costs, the plantation and processing of, for instance, sugar, palm oil, and cocoa does not need highly skilled laborers. Thus, Nutella does not pay the workers a great amount of money. Seen from an economic aspect, it makes sense for Nutella to internationally divide the labor of its ingredients. This ensures that a jar of Nutella is as economically efficient as possible. However, due to the economic aspect of growing ingredients abroad, the information about who earns how much is a bit blurry. The laborers get paid depending on how skilled they must be to perform a certain task. On some palm oil plantations, workers are lucky if they have work for the day. On a plantation in Indonesia, workers earn 66,000 Indonesian rupees, around $5, for spraying 4 hectares of trees in one day. The workers then cover 4 rugby union fields a day. They make around 1.3 million rupees a month, which equals $98. This is often below the minimum wage. Whereas permanent employees who are contracted to cut the large leaves from palm trees and collect the red fruit receive a monthly salary of $173. Now, as we have told you about Nutella and where it is produced, we will talk about the consequences of its production. In this video, we will mainly focus on the impacts of palm oil, which can be divided into economic, environmental, and social. Why palm oil? First, it is one of the main ingredients in Nutella, and second, it is one of the most widely disputed ones. This is due to the concerns regarding nature and human rights. Let's start with the economic impacts. The palm oil business boosts the economy of the producing countries. Over 9% of revenue from exports comes from palm oil in Malaysia. They export 16.7 million tons of it every year, which is worth $15 billion. In Indonesia, this number is even higher. It provides employment for 2 to 3 million, and a lot of that goes to small landholders, as 41% of plantations are owned by them. Also, as most palm oil jobs are in rural areas, it can help improve infrastructure and decrease poverty, as there aren't many other job opportunities there. Furthermore, the palm oil business has had a substantial impact in other parts of the world. As palm oil has a large influence on many countries, it can also lead to political economic disputes. Palm oil is cheap to produce, and it requires much less land, fertilizer, pesticides, and energy than other vegetable oils like soybean. It has been very beneficial to many economies, so why is it arguably the most controversial ingredient in Nutella? This brings us to the environmental impact of palm oil in Nutella. Plantations are often located in former rainforest areas. These tropical rainforests were cut or burnt down in order to make space for palm trees. There are essentially 4 key impacts of deforestation on the environment: extensive soil erosion, the loss of animal habitat, the release of greenhouse gases, and air pollution. First, let's talk about soil erosion. When you clear away trees, the top part of the soil is worn away. A consequence of that is the pollution of water by soil particles, also known as siltation. This lowers water quality and quantity. Soil erosion also leads to poor soil quality and therefore lower agricultural productivity due to loss of plant nutrients. Deforestation also leads to the loss of animal habitat. A famous example is the orangutan. Additionally, it causes high greenhouse gas emissions. Forests counteract global warming by storing CO2, and trees that are cut down release it by burning or rotting. The burning of rainforests also causes air pollution. Another aspect is that the palm oil trees are grown in monocultures. Because all the trees need the same nutrients, the soil gets depleted. Farmers then have to use more agrochemicals, which lowers water quality and causes the loss of biodiversity. Besides the negative impacts of the plantations, the processing of palm oil and the machines that are used also affect the environment. These use a lot of energy, which releases greenhouse gases and accelerates global warming. Fumes from oil mills cause air pollution. So, what effect does palm oil and therefore Nutella have on the people? Basically, they can be divided into 3 categories: health, property and livelihood, as well as human rights. Palm tree plantations have a negative impact on the well-being of the communities living next to production sites. This is because of water and air pollution. Many people suffer from irritated skin and eyes, and some of them experience respiratory or cardiovascular illnesses. Furthermore, palm oil in Nutella promotes obesity and the diseases related to it. Another important aspect is land grabbing. A lot of land that is used for palm plantations belong to the local population, but because they often don't have legal documents to prove their ownership, their land rights are not recognized. The government then gives the palm oil companies land without the permission of local farmers. Additionally, people who rely on resources from the forest for their job or their food are impacted. Labor rights and human trafficking are also huge concerns. Plantation workers are often exploited and forced to work there. Traffickers lure them in by promising high salaries and good conditions, but often they don't have access to basic facilities and live in isolation, so they can't escape. The traffickers also charge high fees for finding them jobs, which leads to indebtedness. Child labor is common. The main criticism towards palm oil is its unsustainability because of deforestation and monoculture farming. So, what can we do about these problems? Banning palm oil in Nutella and other products is not a realistic solution. It would only result in political disputes. This is because it is essential for the economies of countries such as Malaysia and Indonesia. But let's have a look at some possible solutions to the negative environmental impacts. Today, there are organizations like the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, also known as RSPO, that are working towards developing new, more sustainable methods of cultivating palm oil. Although palm oil in Nutella is certified by RSPO, there is still a lot of room for improvement. This is because the standards for certification are set low to encourage membership. Many have criticized RSPO, saying Ferrero uses it to protect their image. Studies have shown that an RSPO certification doesn't make a big difference. One possible solution would be to introduce new certifications for sustainable palm tree cultivation. The farmers would have to pass certain criteria and standards. Introducing these schemes would lead to reducing the clearance of rainforests and ensuring labor rights for plantation workers and local communities. However, certifications alone wouldn't suffice, as farmers wouldn't be legally obliged to have them. Additionally, smallholders often couldn't afford them. Retailers and producers must agree on transparency and traceability, which should be implemented over the whole supply chain. In the long run, vendors can be crucial to a positive shift towards sustainable palm oil. Another important step would be to raise awareness. This can be done by big media cooperations creating videos and articles about the critical situation. Protests would also increase public knowledge. Additionally, governments should try to educate students and others about this topic. In addition, you could introduce a higher tax on palm oil. But when the government of France proposed this in 2013, it caused many riots. The population didn't want a higher price for their beloved Nutella. So, what could we as individuals do to counteract these problems? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you want to help these little guys, you must reduce your consumption of Nutella. But there is a good side to this. Eating Nutella on only special occasions would make you appreciate it more. Also, your health would be greatly improved. At the end of the day, small contributions can have a great impact. Thank you for watching this video.